All right, today we are pulling back the curtain on human resources. We're going to demystify what HR really does by following the complete journey of an employee, from that very first job ad all the way to their last day. So let's dive in and map out this entire journey.
So, be honest, when you hear the letters HR, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of us, right, it's just that department that deals with hiring, firing, and, well, mountains of paperwork. But that's just barely scratching the surface. The reality, it's way more complex, and honestly, way more strategic. It touches literally every single stage of an employee's life at a company.
Okay, so let's get the official definition out of the way. Human Resource Management, or HRM, it's a whole process. We're talking about everything from recruiting and developing people to motivating them, evaluating them, and even just scheduling them. And the key here is that all of this is done to help the company hit its goals. See? It's not just about pushing paper. It's about managing what is, without a doubt, a company's most valuable asset, its people. In this visual right here, it does a great job of showing the true scope of HR. I mean, look at this. You've got recruitment, training, compensation, evaluation. They're all connected, right? And what's sitting right there in the middle? The organization's goals. Every single piece of this puzzle, from who gets hired to how they're paid, is supposed to work together to hit those targets. It's a strategic cycle, not just a random list of tasks.
And that brings us to a really key idea here. HR pros are so much more than just friendly people persons. They're actually strategic partners in the business.
Okay, so where does this journey begin? Every story has a starting point, right? Let's dive into that first phase, the talent search. How does a company actually go about finding and then choosing the perfect person for the job?
You know, the very first step is absolutely foundational. You can see it right here. Before a single job is even posted, HR has to define two crucial things. On the left, you've got the job description. That's all about the job itself, what the role actually involves. And then on the right, you have the job specifications. That's about the person. What kind of skills, what kind of experience do you need to do that job well?
So, once you know what you're looking for, the next question is, where do you find these people? Well, there are basically two main paths. You can look internally, promote or transfer your current employees, people who already know the company. Or you can look externally, casting a much wider net with things like job fairs, online ads, and of course, social media.
All right, so now you've got a pool of applicants. How in the world do you pick the best one? Well, it's not random. It's a very methodical, six-step process. Think of it like a funnel, designed to filter candidates at each stage. It starts with the application, moves to interviews, then maybe some testing and background checks, all the way to a probationary period. It's all about making sure you've found the right fit for the long haul.
And here's something you absolutely cannot forget. This whole process is governed by a pretty complex web of laws. We're talking about major legislation like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Americans with Disabilities Act. These laws are there to make sure the hiring process is fair and doesn't discriminate. And a huge part of HR's job is to navigate this legal minefield, to make sure the company hires the best person for the job while also protecting itself from some really costly lawsuits. All right, the offer is signed, the person is hired, but the journey? No, it's just getting started. So let's move on to the next crucial phase, what happens after day one. We're talking about growth and development.
Now, this is a really important distinction that people mix up all the time, training versus development. Think of it this way. Training is about the now. It's giving an employee the skills they need to do their current job really well. Development, on the other hand, that's all about the future. It's about building up their abilities for their entire career, maybe for jobs that don't even exist yet.
And companies have a whole toolkit of methods to get people up to speed. You can see a few of them here. And the key is choosing the right tool for the job, right? So for skilled trades, you might see a hands-on apprenticeship. But for something super complex and high stakes, like a pilot or a surgeon, you're going to use advanced job simulations so they can practice in a totally safe virtual environment.
So how does a company actually know if all this training is working? How do they know if an employee is meeting expectations? Well, that's where the performance appraisal comes in. And this isn't just a single awkward meeting once a year. It's a whole six-step cycle. But you know where it most often goes wrong? Right at the beginning. If you don't establish and communicate clear standards, the whole thing just feels subjective and, frankly, unfair. And make no mistake, these evaluations have real consequences. This quote says it all. Decisions about promotions, compensation, more training, or even getting fired, it's all based on these performance evaluations. This is where HR's work has a direct, massive impact on an employee's career.
Of course, an employee's journey isn't just about what they do. It's also about what they get. So let's talk about the good stuff, the pay and the perks.
And as you can see here, getting paid is way more than just a simple salary. Companies have all sorts of pay systems. You've got your hourly wages, commissions, bonuses, profit sharing, even stock options. And none of this is random. It's all strategically designed to attract, keep, and motivate the exact kind of people they need.
Then, on top of the money you actually see, you've got fringe benefits. These are all the extras, the non-cash stuff that makes up a huge part of your total compensation. We're talking about things like sick leave, vacation time, health insurance, and retirement plans. HR manages all of this, and honestly, sometimes these benefits are just as important as the paycheck itself for keeping great people around.
And today's workplace is really leaning into flexibility. A great example is flex time, and this little diagram shows you exactly how it works. You've got these core hours in the middle of the day where everyone has to be there. But outside of that, you get the freedom to adjust your start and end times. It's a huge perk, and it can make a world of difference for your work-life balance.
But, no job lasts forever. Sooner or later, an employee's time with a particular company comes to an end. So let's look at the final stage of the journey.
Now, the end of the journey doesn't always mean a sad goodbye. It can take a lot of different forms. Some are great, like getting a promotion. Others can be sideways moves, like a reassignment. And yes, some are difficult, like a termination or retirement. But every one of these paths, whether you're moving up, over, or out, is carefully managed by HR.
And here's a really modern twist on this whole idea. Check out this number. Some estimates say that nearly 30% of the entire U.S. workforce are now contingent workers. We're talking about freelancers, temps, gig economy contractors, the whole shebang. And for them, this employee journey we've been talking about, it looks completely different. It's not one long road with one company. It's more like a series of short, project-based sprints with lots of different companies.
And when that journey does end with a termination, it has to be handled perfectly. This is where HR's legal role is absolutely critical. You can see some of the do's and don'ts here, but the main idea is be consistent, document absolutely everything, and never, ever make promises you can't keep. At the end of the day, it's about protecting both the employee and the company from a world of trouble.
So, there you have it. From the first interview to the final farewell, HR is there managing the entire life cycle of an employee. But as we've seen, this journey is changing fast. And that leaves us with a big final question to think about. As powerful technologies like AI and the ever-growing gig economy continue to completely reshape how we work, what does the employee journey of the future even look like?